We have time for some questions. Any questions from the audience? I see some hands raised. A microphone. Yes, it's coming on your right. Yeah.
Well, my question is addressed to Professor Grimmer, and it's about a clarification I would like to make, because if I have not misunderstood you, you mentioned the different interpretations to the once-only principle, mainly as I was explaining this morning. When I said that data from the once-only source could be stored, okay, it's a point for interpretation, but if you are getting the data from the source, let's say the ship's data or details, and you're creating a manifest or a record, which is going to be stored and persisted as a record in its own right. Now, the ship could change its name, could change its owner, could change, not its tonnage, but its tonnage will remain. I tend to think that once data is maintained centrally, and I have no problem with that, it has to be maintained centrally, and no one else will change that data. If it's brought into a record, which is a manifest of a particular trip or a particular voyage, in Malta especially, people are reluctant to rely on a link to an external source where you're creating a record which is half-baked in a way. You're creating a record which contains details which are held somewhere else. So there is a fear factor as well in that. But I tend to go for the concept of a record which is a record in its own right. So if I'm creating a record which is admissible in court, it has to be complete. And by completeness, I mean that data, those data elements, which are part of the once only, and which are brought over and integrated in this record, I said without possibility of changing. And that is my point of clarification. Thank you very much.
So thank you for your explanation. I mean, certainly we see many different ways of how once only can be applied, and part of the project will be to actually understand what everybody means by the once only principle. I think an important point that you made is that when you maintain the data centrally and when you have a local copy of that data, that information doesn't get reused in other elements. So when you want to verify the information, you always go to the original source. That is one interpretation, and we don't have a position of that so far. We are documenting the various different ways, and we of course go, as you can see from the work in the project, we're tending more towards always go to the original source, right? But we're not saying that this is the final word or how we're going to understand that. So important is for us right now to see what everybody sees, and we can find, usually in most cases, a common denominator.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions I see in the back, and then we have one more over there.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. My two questions would be for Olivier. You mentioned a media monitoring tool, and immediately this made me think about the text and data mining and the press publishers' right from the proposal of the Commission. I don't know much about the tool, but I was wondering, knowing that the TDM exception is limited to non-commercial purposes, I don't know if the tool would apply for commercial monitoring as well. And the second part of my question relates to the press publishers' right, because this is an aggregation of, it made me think about the hyperlinking and the ancillary right. So my question would be, to what extent your media monitoring tool would be affected if the copyright proposal is adopted as proposed by the European Commission? Thank you.
And now, yes. So, so far, EMM is still legal. Okay? So, there has been a lot of discussions. Somewhere like 5 years ago, we were even sued by some publishers. But the result of this is that it's legal. First of all, because there's no commercial purpose. Second of all, because we don't keep the data, we just read it. And then we keep the first sentence of the article and the title, which so far is okay. I mean, it may change, but so far it's okay. And on the issue of deep linking, there have been some cases where it has been actually judged as well legal from the point of view of law. So today there's no issue. But that may change. You are absolutely right, yes. Yeah.
Okay, we had one last question.
Yes,
You already have the mic.
thank you. Does it work? Yes. My name is Peter Brosch from Austrian Ministry of Health. I have a question to Manuel Perez Gomez about the big data analysis.
I can hear you. Sorry.
The question is about the data sources. What were your data sources? The question aims if there has been a mixture of administrative, commercial or social network data or whatever. So what are the sources? And the second question is about the number of data sets you use in your analysis. So the question, what is big in the big data? Thank you.
Well, sorry. The number of people. Could you hear me? Sorry. The number of people that is in the database is 30,000 people during all the period that we studied to obtain the conclusions. So it's not a big number, but this is the last number, no? Well, the conclusions, I think the conclusion are very important. So we can think the final result of the project is a good, positive result, and we can talk now with the political responsible to change the law and to introduce the measures that we prepare for the future.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can take one last question and then we will have the coffee break. But go ahead here in the second row.
So this question is for Titus. I was just wondering if you could say anything about the status of the use and development of StatCat for interoperability around statistics, or if that's something that is part of your work, or just curious. I don't know if you mentioned that earlier. StatDcat, so the metadata standard for interoperability.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. So indeed, we are part of that exercise through one of the task forces that we have, or one of the units that works on the metadata standards. I cannot go into further details on that now, but we can talk about it later on if you want for a coffee. Okay.
Okay, and that's the perfect link to the coffee break then. So I propose we take a break for about 25 minutes until 5 minutes past 4, after which we will have a third session for the afternoon and a panel discussion. So enjoy the break and see you soon.